All right, welcome. Today I am presenting my NASCAR's top 10 drivers since the year 2000. So that is from 2000 up to the present day, which is 2022. Please chime in, give me your comments, let me know what you agree with, disagree with. We are actually going to show this as a segment on my YouTube show, The Loose Lug Nuts, Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So be sure to tune in and see what my co hosts think, see what the fans of the show think, and another chance to voice your opinion there. But again, this is top 10 drivers in NASCAR from 2000 to present day. So, couple things. Let's get this thing rolling and let's kind of talk about how we are doing this and what my criteria is for being on the list here. So, first, at least part of the driver's career had to be in the time frame from 2000 to 2022. But even though the whole career may have spanned back into the 90s, we're only going to look at the portion today that was in the 2000s. So, for example, Jeff Gordon, great driver in the 90s, still had a lot of good years in the 2000s. When evaluating for this list, it's only going to be what he did from the year 2000 forward. Okay. We're also going to look at how many years they were driving full time during this list. So if you take a Kurt Busch is somebody who basically started in the year 2000, I believe, he's got the full spectrum here, all 22 years. You look at some other people like Jeff Gordon, maybe they're only the tail end of their career was in the 2000s, or a Bobby Labonte or a Mark Martin. Flip side of that is you've got people like Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Martin Truex Jr. They are in it right now, but certainly were not around in the year 2000. And then you got people like Carl Edwards, who kind of fit somewhere there in the middle. They were not around in the 2000s, but got into it and then got out of it by now. We are also only looking at accomplishments in the Cup Series, so nothing that they did in Xfinity or trucks. If they were a car owner in another series, not counted. This is just their accomplishments as a driver in the Cup Series. And we are looking at the entire driving resume, the number of championships, the number of wins. I'm going to call them championship appearances, even though they didn't always have a playoff format, and even the early years, the playoff format didn't have a final four. So we're going to call that as a championship contender. So if you finish top four in any way, shape, or form, I'm going to say you are a championship contender that year. So we're going to look at how many times they were in contention for the championships. We're also not just looking at the wins, we're looking at the top fives, the top tens, the crown jewel events that they won, how many laps they did. It is the whole resume there. So, with that being said, let's get into the list, and I'm starting with number one. And I'm starting with number one because number one is pretty easy. Actually, the top of the list is pretty easy. It's the bottom that is the really hard part. Number one, to the surprise of probably no one, Jimmie Johnson, Mr. Seven Time. His resume speaks for itself. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, 7 championships, 83 wins. 11, I call it championship four appearances, even though they weren't always championship four. They were just they had the playoffs back then, but again, didn't always call it championship four. Over 19,000 laps led. Everybody who I have looked at as far as a list, Jimmie Johnson has been number one. Hard to argue with putting anybody else up there in that top slot. Number two, another popular pick at number two, and I've seen this guy ranked, I think, no lower than third on any list that I looked at. Tony Stewart, 3 championships, one of them as an owner driver, 46 wins, and I believe he was the first owner driver to win a championship since 1992. And I want to say, when I am quoting all these numbers, those 46 wins for Tony Stewart or 3 championships, any number I'm quoting as a statistic is just from the year 2000 forward. But very impressive resume for Tony Stewart. I got him at number two. Now, number three on the list, I've seen some people flip two and three, but they've always kind of had these top three in kind of the same order of Jimmie Johnson, or it's the same three players, Jimmie Johnson, Tony Stewart, and Kyle Busch. Some people flip two and three. Look at Kyle Busch, 2 championships, 60 wins, and as I call it again, championship appearances. 6 times he was in the top four in points. So very impressive resume for Kyle Busch. I think his win this year made it 18 consecutive seasons with a win. But like him or love him, Rowdy has definitely got the talent and got the resume to be up here on the list. Once you get past number three, the next couple I kind of think everybody's going to have on their list, but there's going to be some stuff in that bottom half that is really difficult. And really, in that bottom half, you could kind of shake it up in a lot of ways and be hard to argue with the order. But at number 4, I have got the closer, Happy Harvick. Kevin Harvick came in 2000 after or 2001 after the death of Dale Earnhardt, so he has got almost the full 22 years in here. He is the 2014 Series Cup Championships. 58 wins. He is only 2 wins behind Kyle Busch. Finished in the top 4 in points in 10 different seasons. So that is basically half his career he has been in the top 4. And he has competed full time in every Cup season from 2001 to 2022. This is one of the things, though, that I think adds to Harvick's resume, and you could potentially move him up a little bit. 2001 to 13 was RCR, then 2014 to present was Stewart Haas Racing, and I really feel like his resume would be even stronger, but I feel like that Richard Childress equipment in the last few years that he was driving there was just not up to par, that they were not an elite team anymore, and that's factored in. So I'm factoring in the resume, but I'm also factoring in what you did with what you had, and I just don't feel that Richard Childress equipment in some of those years was all that strong. I don't think they were at an elite level for every one of those 13 seasons that he drove there, which bolsters him, which makes all of his accomplishments even more impressive. So I've got Kevin Harvick, number 4. Let's go on to number 5. This is a guy who has been left off a lot of lists, and I think it's unjustly so, and I've got him ranked really high. Number 5, Carl Edwards. 28 wins, and you're going to see a lot of people have more wins than he's got. Finished top 4 in points in 5 different seasons. Here is what I really think makes Carl's resume so strong and merits his position on this. He only competed in 12 seasons. So from 2001 to 22, he's basically competing in half the seasons that say a Kurt Busch put in. So he's doing all this in basically half as many races. So I'm giving a lot of consideration to that. You figure he has a career that is longer or competed in more seasons. I think he may be higher than 5, but I'm considering the fact that he was only there for about half of the season. So now let's get into number 6, and this is going to be another active driver, Brad Keselowski, or as we have nicknamed him, Brad Kozarewski, 2012 Series Cup champion, 35 wins. He also has only competed in 12 seasons, and I don't know why we're at 2001. It should say 2000 to 2022, so that's a little typo. He is still currently active with RFK Racing, and again, we're giving consideration to the fact that his accomplishments came in only 12 seasons. But you think about all that he has accomplished, that resume looks pretty impressive for a guy who's been here all 22 seasons, and he's only been here about half of them. So I have given Brad Keselowski number 6. Number 7 on the list, Denny Hamlin. 48 wins, 6 Championship 4 appearances. And again, I'm not sure those were all truly Championship 4, but at least top 4 in points. 201 top 5 finishes. The crown jewels are Denny's thing. He's a 3-time Daytona 500 winner. I think he's won every crown jewel that we're racing at right now. And he has spent his entire Cup career with Joe Gibbs Racing, which I think is important because some of these other guys have bounced around and have not always been in the strongest equipment every one of their seasons. But I am given number 7, Denny Hamlin. So now let's go on and move on. Let's hit number 8. Number 8, huge fan of this guy. My dad worked for DuPont for many years, so I followed him from the minute he came into sport. Number 8, Jeff Gordon. If this was a list of the 90s, he would probably be number 1, but it's very impressive that he had not just such a long career, but he was so competitive right up to the very end. You know, he was in the championship race his final year, so he really maintained a high level for his whole career. He was the 2001 Series champion. That was the last of his 4 championships. 44 wins, top 4 in points 6 different years, over 200 top 5 finishes, and again, spent his entire career with Hendrick Motorsports, so he did have the good fortune of running in top tier equipment every year that he was there. But number 8 is my man, Wonder Boy, Jeff Gordon. Going back into the active drivers for number 9 on the list, Joey Logano. He's been left off a lot of lists, and I don't understand it. He and Brad Keselowski both. Maybe people were giving more consideration to guys that are not racing anymore, but Joey Logano is a 2018 Cup Series champion, 29 wins, didn't start racing full time until 2014. So he is a guy, again, not that many of these 22 seasons was he actually here competitive. And maybe the fact that his resume is a little bit short since he didn't start full time until 2014 is the reason he's been left off some other ones. 5 championship, 4 appearances, 143 top fives. Again, for a guy who only has a resume that starts in 2014, extremely impressive to me. Extremely impressive to me. So I am going number 9, Joey Logano. Now, the last spot on the list, and this is one that is probably some people are going to agree with, some people are going to disagree with, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch. So when you look at this, let's go through Kurt Busch's resume. I think he is the only guy on this list that has competed in all 22 Cup seasons, 2004 Series champion, 34 wins, raced full-time every season, has driven for a variety of owners. Okay, so you think about this. Look at that car and that number 51. That was Kurt Busch, Phoenix Racing, okay? He has been with some great teams. He has been with some really weak teams and made them all better. Everywhere he's gone, he's made them better. But when you think about of that time, how much of that 22 seasons, how many of those were spent in subpar equipment, and he still manages to put up this resume and the impact he had on the teams with subpar equipment by making them better. I think he is very well deserving of a spot on this list. Besides the wins, besides championship, 161 top 5 finishes, and I have mentioned significant part of his career in subpar equipment. There are a number of guys that I left off this list that you can make a strong case for. Martin Truex Jr., Matt Kenseth. I've heard some people talk about Mark Martin and Bobby Labonte. I honestly think if you look at just what they did from 2000, it's a little bit harder to put them on the list. I've seen Kyle Larson on this list, and again, I think his resume is just a little bit too short. I think he's had over half of his wins in one season last year, so there's not enough of a body of work for me to put Kyle Larson up there yet. But I think he certainly will get there with the resume he's building. But this is what we've got. This is my list. And again, it seems like from about number 4 to about number 10, you can make a case for any one of them in any order. Very tough call. And it's going to get tougher because some of these guys are still building their resume. But that is my list. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you would put on, who you would put off, who you would move up, who you would put down. But thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this, and I'm anxious to hear your comments about how you would rank some of these guys.